So how are you today?
Good, madam.
Okay, so based on the feedback from your attendance last class, right, there are a few students that asked they are not sure about the 75% rule. So we are going to continue with the industrial building allowance. It's just that I would like to review a bit on some confusion with regard to the 75% rule, right? So this 75% rule is applicable under this topic, IBA. So in the previous plant and machinery, we have the 10% rule, right? So this is regarding the PCTL, the cost of preparing, cutting, tunneling, and leveling of land to prepare a site for the installation of plant and machinery. So it means that you have two costs here. One is the cost of the plant and machinery. The other one is the cost of PCTL, right? So PCTL is incurred in order to install the plant and machinery. So the issue here is that you have to decide whether the PCTL is a qualifying expenditure. Right, so you have to see whether the PCTL is a qualifying expenditure. If yes, then whether the total cost is a plant and machinery or it is a qualifying building expenditure. So the rule says that there's a 10% rule and a 75% rule. The 10% rule says that if your PCTL is 10% or less of the total cost, then the total cost is plant and machinery, right? So once it's a plant and machinery, that means that the tax rate will be 20% and 14%. So the rate here we are referring to the initial allowance and the annual allowance. And you can also have under industrial building where the PCTL is more than 70% or more of the total cost, right? So for example, you have the cost of plant. In order for you to install the plant, you have to do the PCTL, the preparing, the cutting, tunneling, and leveling of land in order to prepare the site for the installation of plant machinery. So this is two different costs. So you have to check whether this PCTL, if the PCTL is more than 75% of the total cost, right? Total cost means the cost of plant and machinery itself plus the PCTL. So if the PCTL is more than 75%, then the whole cost is a qualifying building expenditure. So once it becomes QBE, then the rate will be 10% IA and 3% AA. So what happens if the cost is between 10 and 75%? So if the PCTL is between 10 to 75%, for example, maybe PCTL is 20%, PCTL is 60%, right? So once the PCTL is between 10 and 75%, then the PCTL is a non-qualifying expenditure. So it means that only the cost of plant machinery will be regarded as a QPE, qualifying plant. Then you only claim your allowances, your capital allowance on the cost of the plant. PCTL is a non-qualifying expenditure. All right. So in your textbook, give you, I think that we have discussed the example where it shows you that one example where the PCTL is 10%. Where is it? Where is it? This is why. It's after. Okay, this one is the example 19.4, where you have the cost of the machine 85,000, and then you have the PCTL, cost of leveling the site. So this is what we call PCTL. So you check what is the total cost, 345. What is 10%? 34,500. 75% is 258. So it means that now the cost of PCTL is more than 75%. Right? So once the more than 7%, then the whole cost 345,000 is a qualifying building expenditure. So once it's QBE, then you're going to claim IAAA 10 and 3% respectively. In another example here is that your plant machinery costs you 100,000 and your PCTL costs you 200,000. So total cost is 300, but this 300 you have to check what is the 75% rule. The 10% rule 30,000. So the cost is more than 30,000. But the 75% rule says that it must be 225, and this cost 200,000 is less than 225. So once it's less than 225 means that it's less than 75% of the total cost. Because of that, it falls between 10 and 75. Right? It's not less than 30, it's not more than 225. So 200 is in between. So once it's in between, it's a non-qualifying expenditure. So once it's non-qualifying, then you cannot take it as your allowance. So your QPE in this case, your plant is only 100,000. So you're going to claim 100,000 initial allowance of 20%, annual allowance of 14%. So that how I can revise on this topic. If you still have difficulty, it means that please check with your friends. Maybe they can explain to you better. Yeah, but this is what I can explain now with regard to this. Yeah. Okay. And then we also have this where we say that part of a building as industrial building. Yeah. So it means that you are the owner of the building, right? And the building is used. If the building is not used as industrial building, of course, you cannot claim any industrial building allowance. But if the building is used by the owner as industrial building, then the owner can claim industrial building allowance. However, if the owner, rather than use the building as industrial building, the building is rented out to a tenant, and the tenant use the building as industrial building. Get it? Right? The owner rented out the building and the building used by the tenant as industrial building. So in this case, the owner, even though you own the building and now the building is industrial building, the owner cannot claim industrial building allowance. Why? Because the owner do not use the building as industrial building. The building was rented out. So in that case, owner cannot claim. But there is an exception to the law. So let's assume that the owner, own a hotel. So you have a hotel and you use the hotel as a hotel. You use the building as a hotel. Hotel is an industrial building. Right? So in this case, the owner can claim industrial building allowance on the building because the building is used as an industrial building. In this case, it's a hotel. All right. However, if the owner rented out part of the hotel to other person, and that person used that as industrial building as well, or maybe not, right? It depends, yeah. So for example, you have a hotel, then you have a space, you have one part that is for cafe. So you do not want to run a cafe, so you rented out that cafe area to another person. So you receive rental income, right? And you have another part of the hotel for laundry, for example. So you rented out that area, and other person are running that laundry shop, for example, in a hotel. So in this case, you have two areas that is rented out. Yeah, but as owner, you own the building. You use the building as a hotel, which is an industrial building. So the issue here is that what happened to this, the one that you rented out? So if you rented out, you cannot claim. But the law says that if the rented area, all right, the one that you rented out to as a cafe and the rented out as a laundry is less than 10% of the total building. All right, 10%, it could be in the form of area, or it could normally give you in the form of the cost of the building. So as long as it's 10% and below, right, so you can claim everything as your industrial building allowance. But if it's more than 10%, then you have to apportion. The one that is rented out, you cannot claim industrial building allowance. You only can claim the one that you run as a hotel for yourself, right? But the one that you rented out, you cannot claim industrial building allowance. Is that clear? Okay, so that is the rented. But to the tenant, all right, to the tenant, kenapa benda ni lari kat sini? Part of building. Oh. Okay, this one is not. This one, sorry, this one is when, not for the rental. This one is when you have the whole building and part of the building is not an industrial building. It's not used for industrial purpose. For example, you have a building and then you also have an office. So the office is less than 10%, so that the whole building is industrial building. But if the office is more than 10%, for example, office area is 20%, then you have to apportion 20% non-qualifying. The qualifying area is only 80%. So you have to apportion these 10% rules. Yeah. But the one that I mentioned just now is the rental here. Yeah. If IB is rented out, no IBA can be claimed by the owner. I give you an example. Mr. Lee is the owner, rented out building to Mr. Chan, who is the tenant. Mr. Chan renovate the building for living accommodation for his employees. So now the building now becomes industrial building. Mr. Lee, the owner, cannot claim IBA, although the rental income is assessed under 4A by Mr. Lee. Remember that rental income, you can either under section 4D, rental income, or it can be under section 4A, provided it provides services, all those comprehensively. Yeah. So even though Mr. Lee received the rental income under section 4A, but because the building is rented out, Mr. Lee, the owner, cannot claim industrial building allowance. Right? Mr. Chan, by right, he's not the owner, so that's why he cannot claim industrial building allowance. However, if Mr. Chan, the tenant, incurred capital expenditure on the building, for example, he has to do some renovation on the building, then the amount that he incurred, that is the amount that he can claim capital allowance. And remember that Mr. Chan is also paying the revenue, the rental expenditure, yeah, rental expenses to Mr. Lee. So the rental expenditure is a revenue deduction for Mr. Chan. The revenue income is a rental income and for Mr. Lee. Okay. So there is an exception where I say that if the rented area is less than 10% of the total industrial building, all right, in the case where the owner runs the building as industrial building, yeah. So but rented out only portion of it, part of the building. So if the part of building rented out is less than 10%, so the owner can claim the whole building as industrial building allowance. But if it's more than 10%, then you have to apportion. Means that you can only claim, the owner can only claim IBA on the area which is not rented out. All right? Okay. So again, for the renting and IB, the tenant can claim IBA on capex incurred on the industrial building, for example, the renovation cost. Okay, whenever you have a disposal of the building, similarly, all right, with the plant machinery, so you will have to look at the market value at the date of sale. So normally they will tell you how much is the disposal value or the net proceeds of sale, so whichever is greater. If you're given these two, you have to compare whichever is greater. But if you're only given one, then you just take that amount as your disposal value. All right. These, for example, insurance compensation. For example, in the example where you have motor car which involved in accident, then the insurance company paid compensation. So that insurance compensation is also regarded as the disposal value. Okay, so let's look at the example in your textbook. We have example. Yes.
Are you sharing the screen?
Why didn't you tell me earlier?
Sorry, madam, we thought you were just talking without the screen.
Yes, madam.
Dah lah recorded. Tak payah share lah this recording sebab you didn't tell me. This is the one that I was referring to lah tadi, 75% rule, part of building as industrial building, the 10% rule, and then different initial allowance rate, and the rental income from industrial building. Okay, nampak?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, disposal value. Okay, let's look at the example in your textbook. Example 19.4, done. Okay, before we go into the example, I just want to highlight on the initial allowance. right, the qualifying building, the conditions for you to claim. Yeah. So it means that for initial allowance, you must incur the capex, whether on construction or purchase of an industrial building. The building was in use or about to be used as an industrial building. So used to means that, okay, once it's completed, it's immediately used for industrial building. But about to be used, maybe it's completed in 2019, but we only use the building for IB in 2021. So it's about to be used, so it's not far away. So if you have that, then you can claim initial allowance on the bill. So in the example, we have the canteen, which was completed in 2019, but only completed in 2020, only used in 2021. So in 2020, since it has been completed, incurred, then you can claim that in 2020 initial allowance. All right, the person owned the building at the end of basis period. So that's why upon disposal of asset, you cannot claim. However, there's a special case initial allowance. If the building has been disposed of during the basis period of construction or purchase, so it means that you incur the capex in 2020, but again at the end of the 2020 you dispose of. So if before disposal you have used the building as industrial building, then you can claim initial allowance, even though at the end you are no longer the owner of the building, yeah, at the end of the basis period. So, but because the building has been used, right, for industrial building purpose, then you can claim initial allowance. Annual allowance, all right, you incur, similarly, you can claim capex. Whenever you incur capex, then you can claim in annual allowance, all right, and you are the owner of the building at the end of basis period. So that's why, all right, if you have any disposal at the end, you cannot claim annual allowance in that basis period, yeah. And the building was in use, all right. So there's a difference here. The building for annual allowance, building must be in use as industrial building. For initial allowance, the building was in use or about to be used. So they are a bit lag, yeah. So IAA, the building must be used in the business, okay? Right, so, and then these are the rental income, the one that I've discussed earlier, the 10% rule. If the rental area is less than 10%, then you can claim everything as industrial building. Okay, so let's look at example 19. Okay, 19.9 regard to the rental. Segaris Berhad operates a hotel in Kuala Terengganu and closes its account to 30th June every year. The company on 1st April 2020 rented out some part of the ground floor as clinic to Laksamana Polyclinic for a rental of 60,000 a year. As the area occupied as clinic is below 10% of the total area used as hotel business, full IBA is available on the hotel building in YA 2020. So in this case, Segaris Berhad at the hotel. Hotel is an industrial building. He's the owner and then he runs the hotel. So, but he rented out part of the hotel area as a clinic, but that area rented out is less than 10%. Because of that, Segaris Berhad can claim the whole hotel as the industrial building allowance. But if the clinic is more than 10%, then you have to apportion the amount that IBA is only maybe 80% or depends what is the area. If more than 10%, then you have to apportion. But it's less than 10%, then everything you can claim. Okay. So now we have example 19.10. Okay. So we have net lizer. I hope that you have done this example so that you will be able to understand the discussion better. Net Lizer's neighborhood carries on the business of manufacturing fertilizers and prepares account to 31st March annually. So I always try to highlight the year end because that will determine when is the year of assessment that I can start claim my allowances, or in this case IBA. For the financial year ended 31st March 2020, NSB incurred the following expenditure for the purpose of its business. Number one, the construction of NSB new factory building commenced on 1st April 2019 and was completed on 27 January 2020. So when is that completion? Which YA? YA 2019 or YA 2020?
2020.
2020, because why? Your year end is 31st March. So 31st March 2020, so that 31st January 2020 falls in YA 2020. So the first year that you're going to claim is YA 2020. The building was immediately put to use for the production of fertilizer. The detail of the expenditure incurred are as follows. So it means that when the building put into use, then you can claim immediately lah, IA and AA for YA 2020. So you have the cost of land, legal fee for land acquisition, stamp duty. All right, so try to understand this. When you want to build a building here, you want to build a factory, you have to buy a land first, all right? But remember that cost of land is a non-qualifying. And then anything to do with the land acquisition is also non-qualifying. So legal fees for land acquisition is non-qualifying. But what about the stamp duty? So stamp duty here is that you have to pay stamp duty upon purchase, upon acquisition. So in this case, we acquire the land. So the stamp duty is related to the land. So that's why it's non-qualifying expenditure. Other than that, you have architect fee, clearing of land, construction costs, drainage and irrigation, fencing, electrical wiring and fittings. So all these are part of the construction costs. But then you have your electrical cabling and installation of plant and machinery. So this is related to plant and machinery. So it shouldn't be part of your qualifying building expenditure. Right? So you have to take it out because this one is not building, it is plant and machinery. So that will be computed separately. You have road and car within the factory compound. So this will be part of the building of the factory. You have store for storage of raw materials. So, but in this case, store, even though it's within the same curtilage, you're going to compute the store separately, yeah, as a different building for the company. And then you have a distribution warehouse for storage of finished products, and the warehouse is located 30 kilometers away from the factory. So yes, warehouse is an eligible, provided that it's within the same curtilage. In this case, 30 kilometers away is not within same curtilage, so that's why it's a non-qualifying expenditure. We have staff canteen within the factory compound. So remember, staff canteen is a staff welfare. So the whatever building related to staff welfare is also an industrial building. But the canteen was put to use on 15th of April 2020. So 15th April 2020 is which YA?
2021.
2021. So it means that in YA 2020, can you claim allowances?
Only the initial.
Only the initial allowance, because in initial allowance, it allows you to claim provided that the building, in this case the canteen, is about to be used. Is used or about to be used. So this one, April to the just following year, right? So it's acceptable is that the canteen is about to be used, yeah? So you're going to claim canteen also separately. And then we have December 2019, NSB purchased a second-hand residential house costing 350,000, including 50,000 being the cost of land. So in this case, you have a residential house that is used as a living quarters for factory production workers. So in this case, you have another building which is used as a living quarters, so that is also an industrial building. It's just that the cost 350 minus 50,000, because why? The cost of land is a non-qualifying expenditure, right? So you have another one, we have the living quarters. And then you purchase plant and machinery on hire purchase. So this note number 3 is related to electrical cabling and installation of plant. Yeah, so you're going to put that cost, the 45,000, together with this. But this you have to compute first because it's under hire purchase. What is the qualifying expenditure for YA 2020, 2021, or 2022, for example, yeah? So you have cost of plant and deposit, and then the balance for 80 plus your interest on hire purchase, then you have total sum. And that amount is paid over 48 equal monthly installment commencing on 1st January 2020. So when you want to do your hire purchase, all right, I'm only interested on the cost minus deposit. This is your balance. Whatever balance you have, you immediately divide by 48 equal monthly installment. 480,000 divided by 48, you get 10,000 per month. Right? So that is your installment payment for 10,000 per month. So how many months you paid in YA 2020?
3.
How many months?
3.
Berapa? You start on 10 of January, 10 of January, 10 of February, 10 of March. Right? Year end is 31st March. So you only paid 3 months installment for YA 2020. Right? Plus your deposit of 120,000. So that would be your qualifying expenditure for plant and machinery. Plus you have that 45,000. Right? Don't forget your 45,000 here. Okay, and then you have a generator that costs you 90,000, but then you have preparation of the site that costs you 10,000, so total 100,000. You have to check whether the PCTL is a qualifying expenditure for the plant and machinery. And then you have a Toyota car that you bought in June 2018. June 2018, which YA?
2018.
What is your year end? What is the year end of the company? Year end bila?
31 March.
31st March. So if you were to purchase on 18th of June 2018, which YA is that?
2019.
2019, right? So later you see that the answer in the textbook is wrong. Kan? Okay, tak apa. We go that later. So June 2018 means that you are going to claim YA 2019 IA and AA. And the car costs you 40,000, so you don't have to restrict the amount. Traded in for a value of 45,000 in December 2019. So you purchase in June 2018, June 2018 to May 2019, 1 year. And then you dispose in December 2019. So it means that the period of acquisition is less than 2 years. So what happens when you have acquisition within 2 years? Disposal within 2 years?
Clawback.
You have to claw back. So bila claw back, your value of trade-in is irrelevant. Okay? Then you trade in a BMW car. So you have Toyota car, now dispose of. Now you have a BMW car. So you have to do a competition for BMW car, but remember that cost is 250,000. So you have to restrict the qualifying expenditure. How much is the restriction?
50,000.
Yeah, the QE is only 50,000 because the cost is more than 150,000. Yeah, but December 2019 you purchase or you trade in involved in February 2020 in an accident. Right? In accident February 2020, which is December, January, February, 3 months only. So bila you involved in accident and it was totally wrecked, mean that you is a total disposal lah. So bila you dispose, right? So you only own the asset for 3 months. Do you have to claw back? Claw back or not? What make the whether you decide whether claw back or not? What's the factor?
Commercial justification.
Commercial justification. So means that disposal within 2 years without commercial justification. So the first Toyota car is within 2 years, but there's no commercial justification. It's not mentioned. But the BMW car disposal within 2 years, but with commercial justification. In this case, because of the accident. Yeah, so because of that, Toyota, you have to claw back, but BMW, there's no clawback. So you're going to look into the RE, residual expenditure, but then compare with the insurance compensation, which is the disposal value, 200,000. Okay. All right, then you have to compute. So when you do the computation, the textbook shows the computation in a vertical form. So it means that it shows you IAAA, IAAA, just like that. But when I do my computation, it's always on horizontal portion, horizontal, so that it's easier to see the total of CA that you claim for every year of assessment, right? Okay, let's look at the answer. Okay, what's your QBE? How much your QBE?
$705,000.
705. So you identify which are the costs that are qualifying expenditure, right? And then determine what is the total QBE. In this case, your QBE is 70,000. So once 705,000. So once you have your QE, then you can compute your IA and AA. So what is the IA and AA? This is normal building. What is the IA?
10%.
10%.
10%. So I do it, right? So you compute IAAA on the 10%. So for 2020, so you start in YA 2020, 70.5 and AA 3%, 21.15 million. Is it million or thousand? I think thousand. Yeah, thousands. Okay, so the question only asks for YA 2020, but I just show you that we have 2021 and 2022 as well to show you that the AA that we claim every year. So the second one is the store raw material, store of raw material. All right, how much is the QE? 55,000. How much is the IAAA? Similarly, right? Store of raw material, 10% and 3%. So for that, you compute what is your IA and AA, 10% and 3%. So that would be your IA and AA for your store material. Warehouse is not within the same curtilage. Why? Because it's 30 kilometers away from the factory. So it's not within the same curtilage. So that's why it's non-qualifying expenditure. So once it's a non-qualifying, you don't have to compute lah, because you cannot claim IBA on a non-qualifying expenditure. So there's no IAAA, you don't claim anything on the warehouse. But the staff canteen, you have that 65,000. And remember that you only use in YA 2021. Yeah, you use it in 2021. So remember, the law says that this is 2020. Can you claim? Can you claim anything in 2020 for the canteen?
Initial allowance.
Why you claim initial allowance?
Use or about to be used.
Yes, you incur and the canteen is used or about to be used in 2021. So for 2020, you can claim the initial allowance only, but the annual allowance, you must use the asset. So that's why annual allowance can only be claimed in YA 2021 onwards. Right? What about our living quarters? What's the rate for living quarters? Right, living quarters here is 300,000. But there's a special case here because the rate is 0% and 10%. Why can't you claim 40%? Because the law says so. Right? If you look into this industrial building, let me check storage. Right? Childcare. Okay, construction of employees' quarters. So if you construct, then you have the initial allowance of 40%, annual allowance of 3%. But in this case, you did not construct the building. You purchased the building. So when you purchase the building, then it falls here lah. All right, construction or purchase. Right, for this manufacturing, hotel, tourism, di factory kan. Di kat mana? It will be here lah. Kat mana dia? Ni construction. Kat mana benda tu? Oh, ni manufacturing. Sorry. A person who carry on manufacturing, alright, kalau dia purchase, then the no initial allowance and annual allowance of 10%. So that's why in my computation, you only have initial allowance of 0%, annual allowance of 10%. So you claim annual allowance only on that living quarters, that the 10% is 30,000. What about your plant and machinery? Plant and machinery ni panjang sikit because it's on hire purchase. So you have to compute how much is your cost per month. Sorry, installment payment. What is the monthly installment payment? Where is it? Here, right? So compute the cost deposit and then you determine how much the installment payment. So for your HP, normally I only do this. Right? What is the cost minus deposit? So whatever balance over installment payment, then you will get your monthly installment payment. But for 2020, YA 2020, you only pay how much? You only pay for 3 months installment payment, right? 3 months installment payment plus your deposit. So deposit of 120 and installment for 3 months. Do not forget that you also have these related to the plant and machinery, the electrical cabling and installation of plant that cost you 45,000. So that will be part of your plant and machinery. So you add in that 45,000, then you have your 195,000 as your qualifying expenditure for your building. Yeah, so from there you will have to do the computation. So what's the computation? We have IA and AA, 20% and 14%. So for this plant and machinery. So remember that it's a plant and machinery, that's why the rate is 20 and 14%. Okay. Okay tak ni? Laju
Okay.
ke? Laju tak?
Laju Kak.
Alright. Next is your generator. Right, your generator, look at the cost. What is the cost? Cost is 90,000. PCTL is 10,000. Total cost is 100,000. So bila the PCTL, you have to compute what is the 10% rules or the 75% rule. So in this case, you deal with 10% rule lah. Right, because the cost is 10,000, 10% of that is 10. So the 10,000 or 10% and below. So just nice lah. This in this case is 10%. So 10%, so everything 100,000 is your qualifying building expenditure. But remember that the information says that the NSB paid half of the cost. So total cost is 100, but you only incurred 50% of that. So bila you incurred 50%, then the qualifying expenditure is also half of that. So that 50,000 only lah. So you cannot claim based on that 100,000. So your IA and AA, 20%. Again, is a generator. It's a plant and machinery. So that's why the rate is 20% and 14%. So that is in YA 2020 as well. And then 10,000, 20%, 14% is 7,000. Okay. So passenger car, in this case, this is the Toyota. Okay. So passenger car, the cost, how much was the cost? It was 40,000. Okay, it was QBE is 40,000. But remember that because June 2018 acquired, it means that you first claim IAAA in YA 2019. So when it comes to 2019, you claim IA 20%, AA 20%. So 2020 is 40%. 40% times by the QPE 40,000, then you get your IAAA of 16,000. So your RE at the end of 2019 is 24,000. Okay. When it comes to YA 2020, right? 2020, then you trade in with December 2019. So that is YA 2020. Right? You trade in, but because the period is less than 2 years and there is no commercial justification, so what you have to do, you have to claw back. Whatever amount given, you have to claw back. So how much is given to you? You are given 16,000 in YA 2019. So whatever that 16,000 will be clawed back or will be treated as a balancing charge in YA 2020. Okay tak ni?
Okay.
Okay. Right. But for the motor vehicle BMW, it costs you 250,000. So once the passenger car more than 150, the QE is restricted to 50,000. So you're going to claim QE based on 50,000 IAAA of how much? 10,000 each, I think. Yeah. But Can you claim AA? Remember that you acquired in YA2 20, but then involved accident in February 2020, right? So you can claim initial allowance, but you cannot claim annual allowance because you are not longer the owner of the asset at the end of the basis period, right? So that's why in this computation, you cannot claim any annual allowance. But because it's a commercial justification, you can compute your BA and BC. So for that, compute your RE. Your RE is 50 minus 10,000. The QE minus your allowances claim. In this case, there's only 10,000. So your RE is 40,000. What about your disposal value? You receive an insurance compensation of 200,000. So this is your disposal value. But remember that in order to compute, if you were to put here 200,000, of course you have a balancing charge of 160,000. That's a lot, right? You only claim allowance of 10,000, tapi balancing charge you is 160,000. So whenever you restrict, all right, your cost here, then you also have to restrict your disposal value, right? How to restrict? The cost is 50,000. And then the restrict value is 50,000. Total cost is 250,000. The disposal value is 200,000. So you apportion, right? Apportion accordingly. So your deemed value would be, how much is that? 50 over 250 times by 200. How much is that?
40,000.
40,000. So RE 40,000, deemed disposal value is 40,000. Is there any balancing charge, balancing allowance? No. Right? There's no balancing charge, no balancing allowance on this asset. Any more? So then you compute. So we are done now. So even though one question, but the computation is on the building, on the storage, on the warehouse, there's no qualifying. Staff canteen, living quarters, plant and machinery, generator, passenger car, and BMW car. Berapa banyak tu you kena compute satu soalan. Question? Anything?
Madam,
Yes.
kenapa Toyota car tu untuk trade in punya sale proceed tu dia irrelevant?
Sebab kita claw back.
Okay.
Toyota kan kita, because within 2 years of acquisition and the disposal is without commercial justification, so the disposal value is disregarded. You terus ambil claw back je. Whatever we have given you, we can treat you as a balancing charge in the year of disposal.
Okay. Thank
Alright.
you, Madam.
Okay. Lagi? Any more? Wah, Tara, no question ah. Nanti kita tengok midterm. Okay. So the question, even though topic is on industrial building allowance, that's why kita buat revision on plant and machinery, because normally the question will have all this plant and machinery as well together. Yeah. So you boleh imagine lah, your midterm exam is something like this. Okay. Alright, so let's go to, is there any more question? Kalau tak ada, we go to the next question. I perasan juga I macam laju sikit hari ni. Right, careful because in the textbook it's wrong lah, because they start YA 2018. Alright, supposedly it start from YA 2019. Right, you claim IAAA in 2019. But because you claim 2018 kat sini, then you tak adalah clawback. Right, so this one pun salah jugalah. YA sales proceed ni is tak boleh pakai lah. Macam mana kira 45,000 lah? Oh, you memang pakai, you memang boleh jual dengan 45,000. But again, it's wrong lah, because in this case, disposal within 2 years, we are going to start in YA 2019, 2020 disposal, then claim clawback lah. Okay, BMW is how you restrict the disposal value. All right. Okay, in this example 19.11, just refer to example 19.6. And you have to calculate the industrial building allowance and charges for Malaysian Paint for YA all the years up to YA 2020. All right, in the example here, in this 19.6, that only requires you to compute YA 2020. Right? Mana dia? YA 2020. But I purposely shows you YA 2020, 21, 22 so that you can see how I claim my allowances. But for this question, 19 point apa nama dia? 19.12, is it 19.12? Salah, 19.11. Alright, the question asks you to compute up to, all the years up to 2020. So careful with the question. So it means that you have to compute the relevant years of assessment. So when is the first year that you're going to claim? In this case, it says that YA 27. Okay, let's look at the question. Hold on, please. Hold on. Someone's coming. I have to go. Salam. How to stop? Oh my god. Stop. How do I have to stop. Give me one minute. Salam. Aduh. Shopee. Okay. Let's continue. Where were we? Okay. All right. Let's look at example 19.6. 19.6. Where is 19.6? I don't see 19.6. 19.10. 19.7, 19. Okay, it's here. 19.6. All right. So Malaysian Paints Sdn Bhd, a company manufacturing paints for the domestic market, carrying on business for several years. A building complex in PJ, used partly as a factory and partly as an office, was constructed by the company at the following cost. Right? There's cost of land, legal fees and stamp duty, 1,000 relating to the land. We have architect fee, cost of terracing and leveling of land, cost of internal roads, construction cost, wiring and plumbing. So terracing and leveling land can only be your qualifying, provided that it is 75% or more of your total cost. So in this case, there's no information about that. So that's why it's disregarded, right? It's a non-qualifying. The building was completed and brought into use in September 2017. So year end bila tadi? Mana year end? Okay, year end is 31st of December. The company used 1/11th total area of the building as an office. The company make up its account to 31st December. Right? And so it means that you have to see 1/11 is less than 10%. So the law just now that we have discussed, if the area of in non-industrial building is less than 10% of the total area, then everything is an industrial building. So in this case, you don't have to apportion between industrial building and the office itself, because the office is less than 10%. On 30th of June, the construction of a warehouse in Shah Alam for the storage of raw material for the manufacturing process was completed. Total construction cost, including cost of land, was 250,000. So this is another cost, right? Even though it's in Shah Alam, but remember that you incurred the cost of you construct the building of 250,000. And on 1st September 2020, the whole building in PJ was sold to another company, Amalgamated Industrial Berhad, for 400,000, of which 150,000 relates to the cost of land. Yeah. So you have to be aware of this information. So now you have the main building, the factory in PJ, and then you build another factory, another warehouse in Shah Alam. So in this Shah Alam, even though it's not within the same, but in this case, you construct another building. Yeah. So the cost that you incurred is an eligible lah, you can claim. But careful, because you have that 50,000 cost of land, right? So the qualifying is only to 50,000. State with reason whether each of the above expenditure qualify for industrial building or not, right? So if you were to do this, then the number one is that you're going to compute your qualifying building expenditure. All right, so in this case, how much is your qualifying building expenditure? So let's look at example, is it 19.12? I hope so. So it's constructed in YA 2017, right? How much is the qualifying? Oh, kita tak kira. I don't think. 226, where do I get 226? 226 is here, right? Legal fees and stamp duty, architect fee, internal road, construction cost. So means that we took out 100,000. We call it about 377 minus 100,000 minus 1,000 minus 50,000. You should get 266,000. So this is the qualifying building expenditure for the one in Petaling Jaya. So if you have to do that, then you compute, right, 10% YA 2017. Why 2017? Because completed September 2017, year end is, where's the year end? 31st of December. So it means that 2017, YA 2017 is the first year that you claim IA and AA. So you claim IA, AA 2017, 2018 AA, and 2019. Then you dispose of the building on 1st of September 2020. Yeah, so you dispose in 1st September 2020, the whole building in Penang, and how much you, 400, of which 150 relates to the land. So the disposal value is, you have to compute what is your RE. So RE is your qualifying building, which is 226 minus all your claims. Yeah, total claims is, how much is total claim? 42,940. So because of that, you have RE of 183,060. Your disposal value is 250,000. And how much is this? 66,940. What do you call this? This is normally is a immediately is a balancing charge. But here, all right, you see that your, in this case, the gain is 66,940. But can you claim that as your balancing charge? All right. So there is a law when you did your tax one. I'm not sure whether you remember this or not. All right. Come on, right, 66,940, but the total allowance claim is only 42,940. Right. So because of that, you will have to, right, you have to look at the BC is restricted to the amount of the CA claim, right? So it's not fair for the company to pay a balancing charge of 66,940 where the maximum allowance claimed by the company is only 42,940. So when you have the scenario whereby your differences or your gain is more than the allowance that you have claimed, then you are going to restrict your balancing charge. The balancing charge is restricted to the amount of your allowances that you have claimed. So in this case, your BC is restricted to 42,940, right? Even though you have a gain of 66, but your BC is restricted to 42,940. Okay, my question is, if you are the company, what is the name of the company? Malaysian Paints. Which one you want? Which one is better for the company, to have a balancing charge of 66,000 or to have a balancing charge of 42,000?
42,000.
Okay. 42,000 is better for the company as a balancing charge. Explain.
Because the taxable income would be lower.
Yes. Because balancing charge is something which is tax, which is charge. So you have to pay tax on that balancing charge. So to pay balancing charge of 42 is better than to pay tax on that 66,000 to the company. Yeah, so that's why you have to be aware of the rules available. If you're not aware, you're going to say that, oh, my balancing charge is 66,000, right? Then you submit your tax return, and later only you want to say, oh, I did it wrong, I want to revise. You cannot you can revise only if it gives you a higher tax liability. So in this case, if you have submitted your tax return where you claim your BC as 66,000, then you want to revise to say that, oh, I did wrongly, I want to claim my BC 42,000 only, you cannot do that. Why? Because revision only allows when it gives a higher tax liability. If it lowers your tax liability, you cannot revise. So it's so unfair, but that's the law. So that's why it's very important for you to know the rules and regulation under the Income Tax Act, so that you can claim the maximum deduction for the company, so that the company only pays the lowest tax liability in accordance to the rules and regulations stated in the Income Tax Act 1967. Okay? So are you aware of these rules? The restriction of the BC? Yeah, so careful with this, yeah. Okay, next is that okay, and then what kita buat soalan salah ke apa ni? Storage of raw materials, macam tak ada, macam salah soalan je hari ni. What is 226? Betul dah. Or construction of warehouse does not qualify as the warehouse is not within the same curtilage as the existing factory building. Ini soalan mana I buat ni ah? (19.6). Just tengok 19 point. Tak macam ada disposal. Okay. Tengok balik. 19.11. Oh. Alright. So I just want to show you that in this answer, the author has prepared the computation what we call vertically. Alright, they do it vertically. But if you were to do it like my form, alright, the horizontal part it looks easier, and it is easier, right? It looks easier and it is easier for you actually, because you don't have to put all the years many times. So you just have the IA line, and then you have the annual allowance, and then you compute your RE, DV, and the difference. And of course, in this case, the BC is restricted. Okay. All right. So here the sales proceed, and then the balancing charge is restricted to the actual allowance granted. So you clear about this, yeah? The balancing charge restriction ni. All right. Okay. Any question on this? Tak ada. Okay. All right. Then we have the example on 1912. So do we have 1912 here? Yes. Golden Anchors neighborhood was incorporated on 1st February 2012. Accounts are made up to 31st December annually. The company bought a piece of land for 60,000. for the purpose of constructing a factory, various expenses were incurred in the construction of the factory. So you have land of 60,000, and then you have legal fees, of which 2,000 related to the land. Yeah, and then you have architect's fee of 11,000, local authority 4,000, cost of leveling of land. So again, leveling of land, when there's no further information, it should not be regarded. Construction cost of 370,000 and wiring and plumbing of 50,000. The building was completed on the 23rd of December 2012, and the company commenced business on 15 January 2013. The building was wholly used as factory until it was sold to Black Gold on 1st April 2016 for 500,000, of which 100,000 was related to the cost of land. Black Gold, Sdn Bhd, has been in business for a number of years and used 80% of the building as a factory and the remainder as an office. So you have 80% and 20%. So now you see that the office is more than 10%. So in that case, you have to apportion. Black Gold make-up account to 30th September. Due to business expansion, Black Gold constructed another building which is used as a factory. The qualifying building expenditure was 120,000. The building completed on 15 December 2019, brought to use on 10 January 2020. Calculate the industrial building allowance or balancing charge for each company for the relevant years of assessment up to 2020. For each company means that you have two companies here. One is the Golden Anchor, the other one is Black Gold, and then you have to compute tax for relevant years of assessment up to 2020. Right? Okay. So when you have this information, all right, similarly, you have to go through the cost and then identify. So you have to list down, okay, because each one of these ada satu tick, dia buat tick, 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 tick like that, right? So make sure that you have all the ticks there, even though your total QBE may not be right, but at least you have all the ticks there, yeah? So you have legal fees, which is excluding the cost of legal fees for the land. So you only have 8,000 there. Architect fee, payment to authority, construction cost, and wiring and plumbing. Again, remember that this cost, 20,000 cost of leveling, is not included. Okay, and then the qualifying building expenditure, you have 443. So in my case, right, I have QBE as 443. But again, you have to list down. I did not list it down here because I nak cepat tadi, right? So you have the QBE as 443,000. Then you start computing lah. So remember that it was completed bila? Black Gold. Okay, the building completed in December 2012. Year end is Golden Anchor, year end is 31st of December. So untunglah completed 23rd December, you boleh claim already YA 2012. So you start to claim in YA2. Okay, careful. The building completed in 20 December, but the company commenced business. This is very important, yeah. You have to be very careful because commenced business only on 15th of January 2013. So remember that as long as the company has not commenced business, the company cannot claim anything. So you must commence your business, then only whatever capex that you incur, only you can claim in the year of commencement. So even though you complete the building in 2012, but because you only commence business in 2013, so the first year that you're going to claim is 2013. So that's why for tax planning, we always try to commence business as soon as possible. So maybe, all right, for this building, maybe it's difficult because you need the building in order for you to run the business, right? But there are ways for you to commence your business without having to wait the building to be completed. So that is another topic, yeah. So for this one, you are going to start claim your CA in YA 2013, right? So you claim your 2013, so that would be your 10% and 3%. So every year you are going to claim 3% as well. So remember that when you do in the column in the table form, in the column form, all right? So you just plug in the figure annual allowance accordingly. And then, all right, when it comes to, then you dispose to black gold on 1st April 2016. So again, year end is 31st December. So 1st April 2016 is YA 2016. So when it comes to 2016, you are no longer claiming any, you don't claim any what? Any allowances, right? So you compute what is your RE. Your RE is your 443 minus all allowances that you have claimed. In this case, how much is your RE? RE is 358,830. Look at here, 358. What is your RE? So this is your RE. Your is the same 358,830, but I prefer this kind of working because it's simpler, it's faster, it less confusion. So compute your RE. RE is 358. Then you compare with your disposal value. And remember that your disposal value is 500,000 minus 100,000 cost of land. So that's why your disposal value is only 400,000. So from here you have 41,170 because the disposal value is higher than the RE, and that BC is 41,000. There's no restriction because the amount claimed is higher, which is 84,000. So there's no restriction on your balancing charge. So that 41,000 is your, kenapa dah azan? Is your balancing charge lah. Okay. All right. Any question on this first part? Golden
Madam?
anchor. Yes.
The cost of leveling line before,
Yes.
why is it not included?
Because remember that this is a PCTL.
Mm-hmm.
Right? PCTL is always have to look into the cost of plant and machinery first. Yeah. And then on top of that, if you want to look at the cost of leveling of land, you have to look at for the PCTL, it has to be 75% and above of the total cost. In this case, it's only 20,000, which is very low. So that's why it's not qualified. It cannot be part of plant and machinery, but cost of plant and machinery pun tak ada kat situ. Yeah.
Okay.
Even in the answer here, there's no leveling of land. Okay. Any other question? Ada? Okay. So let's go to the next one, black gold. What happened to black gold? Black gold, they beli the building, right? So when you buy the building, the qualifying building is the cost of that you pay lah. But remember that you pay 500,000, black gold paid 500,000, but from that 500,000, 100 is the cost of land. So you again, similarly for black gold, the cost of the purchase, the qualifying building expenditure is only 400,000, not 500,000. Yeah, careful with that. And right, black gold, right, use 80% of the building as a factory and the remainder as an office. So we're going to divide this into building, industrial building, and office. Office is a non-industrial building. But the law says that even though it's a non-qualifying, it's a non-industrial building, you still have to compute the what we call notional allowance for the building, right? So if you look at here, for black gold, all right, the cost is 400,000, but there are the two parts, the 80% and the 20% here. The 80% you compute IA and AA like normal, but for the black gold, for the 20%, you're going to claim notional allowance from that. All right, notional allowance, which is 3%, will be claimed. So it means that why is it important for you to claim notional allowance, even though you do not claim this 2,400, but when you do computation for the residual expenditure, you have to take into account the notional allowance. Yeah. So notional allowance normally is taken for granted, all right? So it has to be claimed every year, just like annual allowance. It's just that you don't claim that in your computation. All right, macam you buat adjusted income plus balancing charge minus capital allowance. Capital allowance for the current year is only the initial allowance and annual allowance. The notional allowance is not, all right, computed in arriving to your statutory income. It is just computed later when you do disposal, then you have to take into account notional allowance to determine what is your RE. Right? So how I do it is that we have two parts. We have the 80% and the 20%. So the 80% is 320,000. The 20% is 80,000. Right? The 80% we are going to claim normal. Right? So we have the 10% and 3%. So you do like a normal IA and AA for 2016, 17, 18, and 19. But for the 20%, you're going to call it as a notional allowance, NA. So you're going to claim that normal like any other years. Okay, kenapa dia tak buat kat sini? Ada tak kat situ? Okay, and then so it means that you're going just to compute it like that, but assuming that you have to compute your RE, let's say that you have to compute RE in YA20, ini apa ni? Dia ada disposal. Okay, tak apa. So you have RE here. Let's say that you have RE. The RE is actually your 320. Right? You only have 320 now. But you minus sum of all allowances, including notional allowance. You see, so it means that your claim would be higher. Right? Your claim would be your RE would be lower lah, to 40,000. Okay, 240 because you have to take into consideration your notional allowance in computing your RE. Okay. So if you look at here, your notional allowance is 9,006. So rest RE at the end is 240 plus 68. So you have 240, 68. Mana 240, 68 ah? 240 notional allowance is 68,000 lah. Mana part 240 ni? This is 70-40 je. Dapat. RE. Oh, RE is, okay. Dia kira kat sini. Dia kira RE kat sini satu, RE kat sini satu. Right? So, dia kira RE satu-satu lah. Okay, I show you like this. Insert. So, if you were to compute RE every year, what you do is that your total, your QE minus your sum of what you have claimed here. Right? So, kalau you buat macam ni, boleh tak dapat? Sekejap ni kena buat. Okay. Boleh tak dapat? Tak dapat pun. Tak naklah kira satu-satu. So let's see RE here is plus of this 320 minus sum of this. Dapat tak? 240. 249. This case sampai bila? 2020. So this one akan sampai age 29. At 240. This one will be plus of this minus sum of right 68,000. Betul tak? Right 68. Right. So what it does is that you have to compute separately lah the RE for your purchase and the 80% and the 20% portion. Yeah. But it's not It's not required in the question. I just want to show you why they have to differentiate between the notional allowance and the annual allowance. Yeah. Okay. And finally, we have mana soalan tu? Hilang. Right? Alright, and then we have the constructed building where you have constructed a building. Golden anchor mana? 120,000, right? Completed in 2019. I remember that the company Black Gold year end is 30th of September, is it? Where is it? 30th of September. Okay, so 30th September means that completed 15 December 2019, that would be YA 2020 lah. Right, so for the company, the 120,000 construction, we're going to claim that in YA 2020, 10% IA and 3% AA. Right, so that's how you do question number 19.12. Okay, so it's already 11:20. I think that I have to stop now. So do you have any question? Anyone? If you don't have any more questions, then I think that's all for today. I hope that you